A $12 billion bet is happening in the American desert, and it's not going toward another casino or tech startup. It's for building a bullet train. While you've been stuck in traffic or cramped in airplane seats, a private company called Brightline has been quietly doing what the government couldn't do in decades. They want to connect Las Vegas and Los Angeles with trains that go nearly 200 miles per hour. Not the slow, rickety trains you're thinking of, real high-speed rail. And the whole world is watching to see if America can finally catch up to countries that figured out high-speed rail decades ago. Because let's be honest, America used to be really good at trains, like world champion good. 200 years ago, when locomotives first started chugging across American soil, this country was building the most advanced railway network anyone had ever seen. For more than a century, America didn't just have great trains, we had the best trains. Our railways connected coasts, built entire cities, and moved millions of people across a massive continent with an efficiency that made the rest of the world jealous. But then something changed. Actually, a couple of things changed. First came the jet age. Suddenly, you could fly from New York to Los Angeles in hours instead of days. Why sit on a train when you could literally fly above the clouds? The second thing was even bigger. Americans fell head over heels in love with cars. Big, powerful automobiles that promised freedom and independence like nothing else could. In the 1950s, President Eisenhower kicked off the interstate highway system, 47,000 miles of high-speed roads linking the entire country. It was massive, and it worked. Between the 40s and 60s, car travel quadrupled. Air travel? It blew up even more. 15 times more passengers. Meanwhile, railroads, once the backbone of America, started to fade. Engineers who knew trains either retired or switched to building planes and highways. The next generation? They weren't studying rail systems anymore. Funny enough, America did try to catch the high-speed train wave. In 1965, right after Japan launched its iconic bullet train, President Johnson called for our own high-speed rail, and we made real progress. Tests on the Northeast Corridor hit 150 miles per hour, and by 1969, we had regular service going 120 miles per hour. Not bad, right? But then, we stalled. While we were celebrating, Japan, France, Spain, even China raced ahead. They built sleek, fast networks that now connect cities at 200+ miles per hour. China alone built the world's largest high-speed rail system in just 20 years. Meanwhile, here in the US, our fastest train is Amtrak's Acela. It can hit 150 miles per hour, but only in short bursts. Most of the time, it's sharing old tracks with freight trains and slowing down for 19th century curves. Compared to the rest of the world, it's embarrassing. Other countries have modern, fast, and reliable systems. We don't even meet the international definition of true high-speed rail. 155 miles per hour on dedicated lines. Ouch. And this isn't just about keeping score. Without high-speed rail, we get more traffic, longer commutes, worse emissions, and fewer choices for people who can't or don't want to drive or fly. The US has started investing again. Over $8 billion for passenger rail was announced in late 2023. But the truth is, money alone won't fix the deep problems holding us back. So, while politicians were busy making speeches about the future of American rail,
high-speed rail in America,
a private company called Brightline was out there actually building it. And they pulled off something almost no one thought was possible. An entirely new passenger rail line in the US. And they actually finished it. Brightline's Florida route connects Miami to Orlando, two major cities about 250 miles apart. Their trains hit 125 miles per hour. Not technically high speed by international standards, but faster than driving and way more relaxing than sitting on the I-95. But the real story isn't just speed, it's that they got it done. In a country where rail projects usually take decades, if they happen at all, Brightline managed to sidestep the usual mess by doing things totally different. The first big shift was money. Instead of waiting for government funding and all of the red tape that comes with it, they got private investors on board, Wall Street style. That alone was a game changer. Private money means faster decisions, more accountability, and fewer political distractions. Then came the engineering. This $6 billion project included more than 50 bridges and even used wild techniques like box-jacking giant concrete slabs under roads. The genius part: land. Most US rail projects get destroyed by land battles and eminent domain lawsuits. Brightline avoided all of that by mostly using tracks owned by their sister company, the Florida East Coast Railway. For new sections, they used state-designated land next to highways. No drawn-out fights, no crazy legal fees. Their approach? Build along existing routes, avoid community disruption, and stay efficient became their secret sauce. That made passengers show up. Brightline proved that Americans do want trains, if they're modern, clean, and actually make sense. That Florida success didn't just make headlines, it gave Brightline serious credibility. So when they announced an even bigger project out west, people listened. Because this time, they weren't just dreamers, they were builders who'd already delivered. After proving they could actually build modern rail in Florida, Brightline decided to go big. Really big. Their next move? Brightline West, a high-speed rail line between Las Vegas and Southern California that could finally bring world-class train travel to the US. And this is a whole different league. We're talking top speeds of 186 miles per hour, a 2-hour and 10-minute ride from Vegas to SoCal, and for once, a rail line that meets international high-speed standards. If it happens, it'll be the first true high-speed passenger rail in America. The route makes perfect sense. Nearly 50 million trips happen between LA and Vegas every year, most of them by car. The distance is awkward for flying, annoying for driving, but perfect for high-speed trains. And Brightline's aiming to finish it by mid-2028, just in time for the LA Olympics. That's a bold 4-year timeline. The 218-mile line starts right on the Vegas Strip, then cuts through the Mojave Desert with stops in Apple Valley and Hesperia, ending in Rancho Cucamonga, about 40 miles outside LA. From there, riders will hop on a Metrolink train to reach downtown. Not ideal, but it avoids tearing through pricey urban real estate. Brightline West will be a huge upgrade from the Florida system. Fully electric, zero emissions, and powered by solar energy. Trains will come with fast Wi-Fi, comfy seats, premium options, and even a party car. Because, well, it's Vegas. The price tag of this thing is $12 billion. But even at that, it's still cheaper per mile than California's high-speed rail project, and moving way faster. Brightline is again using a mix of private investment and public support, showing that maybe, just maybe, there's a smarter way to build big infrastructure in the US. Because the most innovative aspect of Brightline West is the route. Instead of fighting over land or bulldozing through neighborhoods, Brightline is doing something radically simple, building almost the entire railway alongside Interstate 15. 96% of the route runs in the highway median or right next to it. That's a smart strategy. Normally, acquiring land is the most expensive, painful part of building rail in America. Property owners hold out, lawsuits drag on for years, and projects stall. But highways are already public transportation corridors, so Brightline only had to deal with Caltrans and Nevada's DOT. No endless negotiations, no eminent domain nightmares, and it also makes environmental approvals way easier. Since it's alongside a highway, the project avoids untouched wilderness and sensitive ecosystems. That means fewer headaches with regulators and a faster green light to build. Now, sure, building a train line in a highway median isn't easy. It'll require 160-plus bridges and viaducts to get over the roads, rivers, and other obstacles. And some sections, like the Cajon Pass, will need careful engineering to manage steep grades. But those are technical challenges, not political ones. We know how to solve those. Another big plus? The route naturally passes through cities like Apple Valley and Hesperia, so Brightline gets local access without needing extra track or complex detours. But is it possible to make? Of course. One of the biggest reasons Brightline West might actually get built, on time and on budget, is the way it's being funded. Unlike California's high-speed rail, which relies almost entirely on government money, Brightline is using a public-private partnership. That changes everything. Out of the $12 billion total cost, most of it's coming from private investors. Only about $3.75 billion is public money. That's a huge deal. It means private backers, who are risking their own money, have every reason to keep things efficient, on schedule, and under control. No fluff, no political delays, just results. The government's role here is more of a boost than a bailout. That $3 billion in federal support is structured more like a grant, not an open-ended check. It gives the project legitimacy and helps cut through red tape, without turning it into a bureaucratic mess. This setup fixes a lot of what goes wrong in government-only projects. private investors move faster, make decisions based on business sense, not politics, and they know how to stretch a dollar. Meanwhile, the government's involvement helps with things like permits, environmental reviews, and interstate cooperation. In 2023, Brightline West got a $25 million grant to move the design and planning forward, just enough to grease the wheels without creating dependency. And there's bipartisan support from both California and Nevada, which gives investors confidence the project won't get torpedoed by politics. Also, private funding also means more focused construction. Government jobs often spread work around for political reasons, even if it drives up costs. Brightline can choose the best teams for the job, no strings attached. And most importantly, there's real accountability. If this thing fails, private investors lose money. So they have every reason to get it right, from day one to opening day. Compare that to California's project. It's been stuck in the Central Valley for years, far from major cities, because that's where land was cheap and politics lined up. Billions have been spent without generating any real passenger service yet. Even worse, they've poured money into flashy stations and endless environmental studies, while the actual trains are nowhere in sight. So Brightline's approach is more grounded. Their investors care about ridership, speed, and profit, so they're designing something people will actually use. No showpieces, just a solid, efficient system. California's high-speed rail project, on the other hand, it's the ultimate cautionary tale. Originally pitched as a $33 billion bullet train connecting LA and San Francisco by 2020, it's now a $140+ billion mess, more than 4 times over budget, and still not connecting either city. What will eventually open is a stretch between Bakersfield and Merced, 2 Central Valley towns most Californians couldn't even point to on a map. So what went wrong? First, the route. Instead of using existing corridors like Brightline, California chose to build an entirely new alignment to shave off a few minutes of travel time. That meant acquiring thousands of private properties, and landowners weren't thrilled. Some held out for huge payouts, others refused to sell at all, triggering long, expensive eminent domain battles. Then politics got involved. Since the project is entirely government-funded, it's been pulled in every direction by shifting priorities and local demands. That's why it started in the Central Valley. Cheap land, fewer NIMBYs, and political support. But it also meant billions were spent on a segment that won't earn a dime until the full line is built. But maybe the biggest issue is this: no one's really on the hook. Since it's all public money, there's little accountability when costs explode or timelines slip. The people making decisions aren't the ones paying the price. Taxpayers are. And once billions are spent, no one wants to pull the plug, no matter how bad it gets. In short, California's project became a masterclass in how not to build infrastructure. Politically driven, bloated, and endlessly delayed. Brightline's doing it differently. And if it works, it could reset the blueprint for how America builds fast trains. But for now, keep an eye on Visionary, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when it's all set. Until next time.